Okay, I am one of the people, a handful of people who came together and started Mobilize Chico right after the election. And I don't think I have to say which one or when it was. And I've been a lecturer at Chico State for about 16 years. I'm a writer, and this has been my first kind of foray into community work of this nature. So.
And what got you involved? Did you have that kind of visceral, sick to your stomach feeling after the election?
God, yeah, like everybody else. After the election, I texted a few friends of mine and then said, can we just get together at my house on Sunday and see and talk and like figure out what we should do, and maybe it'll turn into something like a regular thing. Let's just get together and let's just spread the word as much as we can. And I think about 20 or 25 people showed up on my back porch that day.
Wow.
Some I knew and some I didn't. And we just kind of talked, and we decided to put together some kind of way to communicate, and Facebook page and all that kind of stuff. And then it became Mobilize Chico. And it moved on from there. So at this point, Mobilize does a whole lot of different things. Our general mission statement is to support groups that are kind of already on the ground and that have been doing social justice work for a long time, because we didn't want to like jump into things and start new wheels and not acknowledge in some way the work that has been done for so long. And the way that we do that so far is basically to give people forums at our meetings. We meet twice a month, and I'll give you details about that in a little bit. But at our twice monthly meetings, we have forums for people to show up and tell us about what they do. We spread the word of events on our Twitter account, Facebook page, website. We also have a Gmail account. We attend events when we can. A lot of people in Mobilize, and in Mobilize means a whole lot of different things too. It's not the country club that our president would prefer. It's a very different kind of system. So there's all kinds of ways to participate. And so one of the things I wanted to take a little bit of time to do tonight is to kind of fulfill that mission statement by talking for just a minute about, I met with one of the leaders of the local activist group Surge today, showing up for racial justice, and they are involved. They have done incredible work.
So they're mostly white allies of people
Correct.
of color?
Yes, I believe that is true, yeah. And they're working on the Justice for Desmond campaign, and I offered to use a little bit of this time, just a couple of minutes, to plug a couple of things that they're doing coming up.
And who is Desmond?
Desmond Phillips was a member of the Chico community who was shot and killed by Chico PD in March.
His family called for a mental health crisis, and the police shot him. Is
Correct.
that kind of a summary?
Yeah. There's a lot more to the story than that, of course, and I'm guessing that a lot of the people listening to this program probably know a lot of the details about that. But they're seeking justice for him, and they've done incredible work on trying to contact the California State Attorney General to open up an investigation into the shooting. And they have taken so many steps in just being able to send the letter to the Attorney General. And anyway, they are at that point now, kind of. And the events that they have coming up are on September 17th. It will be 6 months since Desmond Phillips was shot, and they're having just a community event in his memory in the plaza. And it's kind of to open it up to people who have also suffered the loss of a loved one as the result of a police shooting. There's food, there'll be entertainment. It's just supposed to be a coming together of the community. And I don't have a whole lot of information about it in front of me, but we will post it on Mobilize's Facebook page. That's followed by a march in Sacramento, Justice for Desmond. The following day, they've done this once before, I think. I'm not a member of Surge, so I'm just doing the best I can here. But they'll go to Sacramento and march to the Attorney General's office and ask, for the case to be opened, for the State Attorney General to open the case. So I wanted to plug those events for them, because that's what Mobilize does. And I know that I will be there on the 17th.
Let's introduce Sandra, and then we'll
Oh,
come back to
absolutely. I'm
Mobilize.
sorry. I didn't know if we were how we were doing it. Okay.
Just a little bit about why you're here, what your involvement is.
My name is Sandra Scholten. I am one of the co-moderators of the group we've named WORD, Women on Reproductive Defense. And WORD also came out as a breakout group from one of the Mobilize meetings. And there were a number of different groups that were breaking out into activist sessions. And a couple of my other co-moderators happened to be at that meeting. And somebody suggested, well, why isn't there a women's reproductive rights group? And everybody said, yeah, why isn't there? And
What's wrong with you people?
Rayanne Owens and Morgan Kennedy, thank you. They volunteered to start the group, and I started hearing about it and that it was going to be happening. Now, I am a former longtime employee of Planned Parenthood. I was the client services manager for 13 years at the local Chico clinic, and when you are an employee of Planned Parenthood, you're not the voice in the community. You're there to serve the client and their needs. So being a very opinionated person, that was often difficult. But it was important work to be done. I haven't worked with them for a couple of years, and when this group started forming, there were conversations about wanting to protest against the protesters outside of clinics, and my understanding from working in clinics is that's the exact opposite thing that we want to do. And so I came aboard and kind of gave some inside information, and we have another member that is ongoing employee at the other local abortion provider, Women's Health Specialists. She also is a participant, one of the nurse practitioners there. So we really got together with a not really an idea about what exactly we wanted to do, except we were mad.
Yes.
We wanted to, but also really understanding that we're not going to change the laws in Chico. So what is the local impact? My beef that I carried for many years was against a religious medical clinic, not really a medical clinic. They call themselves Women's Resource Clinic, but they actually provide no medical care.
They just discourage having an abortion.
Right. They offer free pregnancy testing, and they lure young women in there that are looking for help. And as a Planned Parenthood employee, weekly we would get phone calls from people that happened upon them in tears. They would say, they were just trying to get some help, and they were shamed for even being sexually active, regardless. And on top of it, they also do a fundraising project. They call their fundraiser every year for many years. It's called the Walk for Life, and they time it exactly at the same time the week before or the week after that the local American Cancer Society, the Relay for Life.
Tricky.
So their name, both of their clinic, which provides no medical services, and their clinic and their fundraiser are intentionally set up
misleading
to deceive people.
Right.
So I wanted to go after them for many years. And so that was my
impetus to get involved.
Yes.
Ellen, what about you?
Well, I'm Ellen Galena, and I am here as a member of WORD. I'm also a member of Mobilize, and that's what led me to WORD. I attended a meeting, and one of the things that they do at the meetings is the breakout groups, the various action groups of Mobilize gather in the larger meeting and just talk about what the groups do. And the minute I saw the 8 or 9 women gathered around, I said, this is a group that gets things done, and I would like to be a part of that. So, and just a little on my background, similar to Anna, I had many years of not being active politically. When I was in high school, I worked for the United Farm Workers. That was when they had boycott houses around the country, and I did that in Baltimore. And then I worked on a congressional campaign for a year. But then I was inactive for many years, and like many other people, this election spurred me to action.
Right. Yes, that's the beauty of Trump, is that he spurred us to action.
Oh, it's not that I necessarily disagree. It was just hard to hear beauty. And that in the same sentence.
Well, can I say one thing about that? Because there's beauty in a way. I think part of the beauty is finding other people to take action with you. But I think that what this election showed us is how much work we have left to do. That I think for myself, I was very comfortable with the appearance of
Obama's
equality
liberalism
and other things that I thought were a given in our country that turned out to be a mirage in a sense, not really lasting.
Right. So, Anna, what's Mobilize working on now? And could you say a word about organizing? I'm really interested in how social change happens. And what I hear from a lot of social activist groups is their long, long meetings, and it discourages people who don't have time because they're trying to do consensus and involve everybody. So what are you focusing on, and how do you organize so you don't waste time?
I guess, okay, so part of Mobilize, and I think what you're asking about are the meetings themselves. And those are the second and fourth Sunday of every month at the Chico Peace and Justice Center from 12:15 to 1:45.
Where is that?
That is the address. The Chico Peace and Justice Center is 5th and Broadway. Thank you.
By the fast food place.
By the fast food place, yeah. And that's where we're meeting. And I think when we started putting it together, we really did want to watch out for that, because we didn't want it to be, it's really hard. I just want to say it's really hard being a liberal, aka a person of good conscience, because you just want to you want everything to be fixed, and you see so much, or my experience, you just see so much that is broken. And so none of us wanted to, thank you. None of us wanted to shut people down or give the appearance that we were. It's not what we wanted to do, but we sort of just, the 5 or 6 of us who were on my front porch and kind of continued with it, just started planning the meetings, inviting speakers, having a set of announcements, and then when someone would go on for too long, we would just say, hey, you got about 2 minutes left. We've got other stuff that we have to do, and it's just taken that form every time. And, a couple of us are teachers, and so we're kind of used to having to do that. That might be part of it, but we just try, and we have to stick to an hour and a half. And I feel like I've come to realize that that's just really fair to do that, because we have to share the space at the Chico Peace and Justice Center. We need to be done and we need to be out because there's another group that meets right after us. We have to be considerate of them, and we have to we just have to have a place where it feels efficient and like things are getting done. And sometimes things do get done, and sometimes it goes a lot slower, or it doesn't work the way that we planned, which is apparently part of doing what we do, right? I guess.
So is leadership informal? It's just who volunteered, or how is it determined who facilitates the meeting, who does timekeeping, who plans the agenda?
For a while, we had, on our Facebook page and our website and a couple of other platforms, for a while we had it out there, add anything you want to the agenda, anybody. And we got very few people adding anything to the agenda. And then we had a system up that we talked about in meeting after meeting for a while of like, okay, here we had it set up where some of the founders of Mobilize, or whatever you want to call them, were going to facilitate the meeting for 3 weeks out. Like, here's who's facilitating. Somebody who would like to sign up to facilitate the next one. And very few people wanted to do that. And we've kind of dispensed with the 3-2-1, and now we're just like, all right, let's just keep doing what we're doing and say that if anyone wants to plan a meeting or come in and join us as part of this leadership group, we would love to have you. So in that sense, yeah, it's informal. There's no president, there's no vice president. There's about 9 of us, and we call ourselves the coordinating committee. And we meet once a month, twice a month, and talk about. We have collections at our meeting. We have a bank account, so we have T-shirts. So we just talk about business things and what's coming up at meetings and what our goals are. So that's just kind of how it's played out.
When I go to activist kind of gatherings, a lot of time it's middle-aged kind of people, often associated with the university. What kind of youth involvement do you have?
The youth involvement is there. It is definitely not as big as we would like it to be at all. And we've had a lot of conversations about that. We have a lot of goals to bring in more youth. At this point, we're all kind of stretched, and we're trying to figure out. Okay, we really need like someone, 1 or 2 people, to kind of come in and be like, I'm gonna take this on.
Do the outreach.
Yeah, because we're trying, and I personally have some totally excellent ideas, I'd just like to say. But I'm not, but I can't, and other people, we all know we can't do everything. We can't. So I'm hoping that, it will get bigger. I know especially, it's my understanding about youthful people, that they might be more interested in doing an action, like holding a sign, going somewhere and do something. They certainly, we all know why, don't want to probably like sit through an hour-and-a-half meeting and hear things that they might feel is relevant or not relevant to them. So turnout at Mobilize meetings, maybe that will happen in the future. But we're going to get there. We want more youth, definitely, in our group.
What kind of actions? What are you proud of that since the election Mobilize has done this, and this?
Probably what I'm most proud of are the action groups that have formed as a result of the Mobilize meetings, like WORD. The other action groups are anti-polarization, which just tries to, they meet about once a month, once every 6 weeks, and strategize and talk about ways to sort of bridge the red-blue divide. And this was all with the goal of having community events eventually. So it's not just confined to the safety of a white living room, right? So, and they're holding their first event September 7th in the plaza, and more details will be up about it later. I don't think it's really out yet, but it's September 7th. I believe it's called Meet in the Middle, and they're going to use some of the stuff that they've learned to try to bring people together in conversation. I think that's great. The stuff that WORD does is just wonderful and amazing, and they can tell you a lot more about that. Indivisible is going strong. They meet every Thursday at 6 o'clock, and that started at a Mobilize meeting. They are doing stuff pretty much, as far as I know, straight from the Invisible Guide. I had that meeting for a while, but then I started, giving it to others.
For people who don't know, Indivisible was... Right. It grew from a short booklet that former staffers, congressional staffers, put together. And it's a pretty simple strategy, which is that you target your local representative. That representative cares about you because you can vote for or against her. So that's a nutshell of you focus on your local rep.
Yeah, and give them hell as much as
So
you
Mobilize joins in doing that.
Yeah,
plus.
Yeah. And we support DAC and all kinds of other groups that are doing exactly the same thing.
What's DAC?
Democratic Action Club of Chico. And then the other group is, of course, Signs for Solidarity, which is just they just wanted a vocal, well, it's vocal in a way, just holding signs up the first Sunday of every month in the Chico Plaza. Some of you have probably seen us out there holding signs that are anti-racist and welcoming of marginalized communities in every way. Black Lives Matter, we love our Muslim neighbors, anything you can think of. And so that's been a presence. And so what I'm really most pleased with is that those four, or did I just say four groups? I think I did. That those four groups are like, they're if something were to happen to Mobilize, they're not going anywhere.
They've been incubated.
That's correct.
And their
Yes.
little eggs have hatched.
Yes, exactly. And that is just awesome. That's what
It
I'm
is,
really
and-
proud of.
And probably
Yeah.
more will happen.
Yeah,
So this,
I hope so.
This is the
That's,
beginning.
Yeah, that's what Mobilize is for. And also, we just want to support people that are already here, too. So,
Okay, last question about Mobilize.
Okay.
What do you find is most effective in getting the word across in terms of tactics? You want to influence people. How do you make a dent in their thinking?
I feel like I could just open that up to all of you. I'm still totally feeling like on the learning curve with that. There's using social media skillfully. What I think would probably be really, really effective is if this is just off the top of my head, is if when we use social media and other tools to try to make change in our communities or whatever, that we start controlling the narrative instead of reacting to everything awful. And that's not just since 45 was elected president. I think that in a lot of ways we have, whoever the we is, have just been kind of reacting and instead of taking over the narrative. So, and again, I'm learning how to do this and I'm thinking about it a lot, but I don't know if I have anything terribly informed to offer.
I've been working on this book for a decade about global youth activism, and I think about the youth in 18 days overthrew the dictator Mubarak in Egypt through social media.
Yeah.
But then they didn't have a plan in place, so the generals took over. So we know how to make change sometime, but we don't know how to implement an alternative to a strong man. And so we've seen a reaction with these strong, creepy men, the Putins, the 45s, the Duarte in the Philippines, Egypt, Turkey. So there's been a reaction against that kind of upwelling of popular support. So that's not encouraging at this point.
Yeah, I know. I was when I was talking to one of the organizers of Surge today. Actually, she said, when you fight against something, you also have to have in place advocacy and a plan for the system that you want.
That's the key.
And so I think we're all figuring out how to do that.
Right.
And I am too, so.
Well,
Yeah.
if we knew, we wouldn't have 45.
That's correct.
So let's take a little break and then we'll focus on WORD. Ask Dr. Gayle is made possible by the generous contributions of KZFR supporters and by Friends of the Arts, a state-local partner to the California Arts Council. Since 2001, Friends of the Arts has been creating economic opportunity through arts and culture by producing community festival and events, including Oktoberfest, Chico Palo, the True North Tour, the Silent Film Festival, the NorCal Jazz Festival, the Salmon Festival, and more. To learn about the Friends of the Arts, visit friendsoftheheartupstate.org. Ask Dr. Gayle is also brought to you by the Zeppelin Works, specializing in VW, BMW, Porsche, I want one of those, Audi, Volvo, and Mercedes since 1981. The Zeppelin Works is a full-service repair facility providing technical expertise for any European automotive problem or maintenance. More information can be found by calling 893-0757 or at zeppelinworks.com. So you're listening to KZFR Radio 90.1, and the opinions expressed on the show don't necessarily reflect the views of KZFR, although I think they reflect your views.
I I think they probably do too.
They reflect all that's right and good in the world, so.
And socially
Kidding.
just. So just to remind listeners, Ask Dr. Gayle is on the second Thursday of each month. Email gkimball@csuchico.edu. And now let's talk more about women's reproductive health. And of course that involves men because it takes two to tango. So
Could we have Anna repeat the Mobilize meetings one more time?
Surely.
For listeners that may have missed that.
Surely.
So you can get involved in Mobilize in any number of ways. You can come to our twice monthly meetings. We have a meeting this Sunday. Maureen Kirk, County Supervisor, will be there to talk to us about what a Butte County Supervisor does. We'd like to learn more about it and get more involved in that realm of the local political arena. So she will be there talking to us and answering some questions. We'll also get some updates from Surge and do a few other things. The meetings are, again, second and fourth Sundays of every month from 12:15 to 1:45 at the Chico Peace and Justice Center, 526 Broadway. Mobilize Chico is also at mobilizechico.org. And sometimes we get a little behind on updates, but everything about our action groups and what we're doing is always up there. And we also have a Facebook page. It's Mobilize because that's the way I set it up, and I can't change it now.
Okay. But if you type in Mobilize to Facebook, it'll come up.
Oh, it will? Okay,
Yeah.
you don't have to have
You
the
don't
dot.
have to have the
That's
dot.
good. That's good. And then if you have questions or want to maybe start an action group or get information about groups in the community, you can just email Mobilize at mobilizechico@gmail.com.
Great. Thank you. So let's talk about WORD. Tell us again what WORD stands for, whoever wants to take that.
It's Women on Reproductive Defense.
And we also like the acronym because we felt we wanted to get the word out.
Right. And in the
about
beginning was the word.
women's reproductive rights.
So what have you done so far?
Well, we took a number of actions in response to the Women's Resource Clinic fundraising. So our first large action was on International Women's Day, and we gathered a group. There were about 30 of us outside of the Women's Resource Clinic on Esplanade and I believe 2nd Avenue. We decided to turn the tables, and we'll stand outside of their
That's
clinic.
brilliant. That's brilliant.
And, trying to find that kind of action out in the world, looking online, it was like one group ever did it back before then. And so it actually was pretty innovative. We got a lot of support from people passing on the road, heading
What
home.
did your posters say?
We were letting them know this is not a medical
Like
clinic.
what was the slogan? In a nutshell, what?
I think it was not a medical clinic. There were a variety of different.
Go to
I
Planned
stand with
Parenthood
Planned Parenthood. People were really trying to center around International Women's Day, and this is not supporting women. This is shaming women. Shame and guilt are not medical services. And it caused a little bit of a stir. There was coverage by KRCR. They came
that
out.
That story should still be online if people want to look it up. It's actually something I saw that persuaded me to join WORD. It should still be posted on the news website. And it was very good coverage. It was longer than the normal 30-second segment.
Well, and on top of it, more importantly, it caused a stink in the anti-choice activism side. There were a number of articles on statewide and even national about how national, I don't know what you call them, newsletters. They had articles about how pro-choice activists had the nerve to stand outside of their clinics.
That's wonderful.
And
That's great.
we didn't, we just happened upon it. We weren't looking for those articles. We just happened to go, oh, wait a second. Months later, they were upset, and they are upset. And so we did that event, and the nice thing about that event was that it was a broad range of participants. There was a really big turnout with young people from Chico State.
Totally were.
And
was awesome.
all the way up to retirees. That one of our members is the daughter of a doctor that worked with Margaret Sanger, who is the founder of Planned Parenthood. And so we were really excited to be able to gather in front, and I always like to put an announcement that Dr. Mellum is the sponsor of the Women's Resource Clinic, which does this shaming. Dr. Mellum is a well-respected OBGYN in the community, and he sponsors this clinic.
Wow.
So any medical care is basically overseen through him. So
That's good to
if there are ultrasounds that are performed, which rarely happen, they're only used in the case that a young woman indicates that she is not, that she's interested in pursuing an abortion. They don't just give ultrasounds.
They're expensive.
They're very expensive, and they take time. So Dr. Mellum personally came out and greeted our protesters as well, and tried to pretend like he wasn't in charge, that he just worked at that clinic.
I believe his words were, "What are you protesting?"
Yeah, I really just want to know.
Choice.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to be on the other side and needle them after all the years of having to take it. Because, like, you asked the question of what are we hoping to, what ground are we hoping to gain? I'm not even trying to gain ground. I'm just trying to keep ground.
Totally.
I mean, I don't want to lose the rights that we have. And they could very
in
easily.
Margaret Sanger's day, it was illegal to bring contraceptives across state line. We don't want to go back to that stage. What I always want to know is what's the deal with the right that they're so concerned about the fetus but not with the baby and the mother? Is it simply a means to control women's bodies, or why is the fetus so important and the baby they don't care? Any ideas, anybody?
I wish I knew.
It's so illogical. Helen, you're thinking.
I'm thinking, the folks, another of the actions that we've done was a counter protest when a very large group, very large, very vocal, with giant graphic signs showed up at Chico State, and they actually had a lot to say about their anti-choice positions and the basis for it. But honestly, I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer that. It is a focus. I don't think the argument lies there, though. I have been so struck and carried with me what Gloria Steinem talked about when she spoke in Chico. And she talked about the fact that in societies where the oligarchy, the hierarchy, the forces of evil want to control women's bodies, they don't limit it there. They're controlling expressions of, LGBTQ. They're controlling how people express their political views. So it is part of suppression.
Absolutely.
And to me, it isn't about the baby, it's about controlling the woman.
Absolutely.
I think, can I weigh in just for a moment?
Please.
I had a conversation with when they came to the park and y'all did the counter protest to their Relay for Life or whatever it was, and I was there for a while, and I had a conversation with someone who came over and said, hey, what are you doing here? This clinic provides needed services to the community. And I just talked to her for a while, and she said, after we talked for a while, she said, so when do you think that life begins? Right? And I said, okay, wait, see, this is the thing. We just don't see this the same way. It's none of my business when a life begins inside a woman's body. I don't care about that. You're thinking about life and conception as your business, and we think of it as it's my body, and you don't have a say in what we do. So I think for some people anyway, I hate to say different worldview. That's not accurate, but that's part of it. Like, if you want to get to the heart of it, it's like, I was like, wait, I don't give a shit. Oh, I don't care about, I can't do that, can I? Sorry. I don't care when life begins. It's not my body. It's not my business. And
Right.
we want to be able to have that decision.
And Roe v. Wade spelled out when you can do what at what point. So
Yeah.
it's codified in the Supreme Court
Right.
decision.
But I think, but then when you have like these men in power doing all this stuff, like forcing ultrasounds and vaginal this and vaginal that, just putting women through hell, it's not a different worldview. They're just scared, and they want to have all the power in the
It's
universe.
backlash.
It's other stuff.
It's interesting to me that as women get more freedom, there's more backlash and more violence against women around
Yeah.
the world.
Especially now, thanks to we all know who, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So California is known as a blue state, but north of Sacramento we're kind of purple. So what do you see working with Northern California in terms of attitudes towards reproductive choice and women's health?
I just want to say one thing. I really want to let Sandra answer the main part of your question, but one of the things that has been the scariest to me about what's happening in our country right now is the potential for another Trump appointment to the Supreme
Absolutely.
Court. I know
Absolutely.
he's he who must not be named, but I name him.
Yes.
And so, we have a feeling of safety in California, but it's not necessarily a lasting one. And, many conservative states have put state law into place that should Roe v. Wade fall, those will go into effect
Right.
and be draconian for women
Right.
that live in those states. The other assault that the right has put on reproductive rights is by regulating clinics, is by forcing clinics to close.
Like in Texas and
Yeah, and so
Oklahoma.
there is potential for that here. It hasn't happened, but I just want to say, with Sandra, I feel that this is our time to hold our ground, and it's very important. And so now I'll let you answer her real question
Well,
that she asked.
the
was
way
important.
that I've thought about it is that reproductive rights really aren't red and blue. I mean, they're really not. It's
Yeah.
healthcare.
my body is skin. It's not.
We
Yeah.
all need health care.
Right.
And as an employee, a past employee of Planned Parenthood, every week there would be young women that would come in for abortion services. And every week there would be one or several that would come for their services to have an abortion and would say, I don't believe in abortion, but
I
and
can't
then
afford
whatever
it.
their story is.
Right.
Their story is the most unique story that allows them to have this
The choice.
exclusion. But they don't know that their story is the same story of thousands of women across the country, but they think they're unique. And so they're the only ones that have to take this. So the people that don't even believe they're pro-choice are having an abortion, but they don't see it that way.
That's so interesting.
So that there's this line in their heads, that's for them, but this is for me.
And we should say that most of Planned Parenthood services are not abortion. It's, 2% or something?
2 or 3%.
Yeah, so most of it is preventing pregnancy, hello,
Yes.
Treating disease, preventing disease.
breast exam,
Yes. Saving lives.
saving lives.
So fighting for these rights is really fighting for the rights for people that don't even know that they're going to need them. And that's the thing with the health insurance coverage for abortion services, which that is so often in the news. My personal experience in California, and in most of the local clinics, private insurance was rarely accessed, even if it was covered, because there were so many hurdles anyway, because nobody is on anybody's list. Nobody wants to say that they're an abortion provider. So you're whatever, out of network, or you have to pay for your services up front, and then you have to argue with the insurance company to try to be reimbursed, and you have to go through all this shame talking with these people about, I had an abortion. What are you talking about? Oh, yes, where were you? And it's very intimate details that people just say, it's not even worth it. I will beg, borrow, and steal to pay for this. But then also being in California, many of these services for many people are covered through the state of California. And that is the right that I see in California as being the most at risk, because those monies are tied to Medicaid.
The Medi-Cal funding.
Yes.
Care.
So that is the ground that we're going to lose in this fight.
In the health care bill that was defeated, coverage was taken, no money for Planned Parenthood, right? And what did that health non-insurance bill say about funding Medicare for abortion?
Well, it hasn't passed.
Right, but it was written.
Yeah, well, so the funding in California is pretty closely tied to Medi-Cal and the Family Pact program. Most of the money for Planned Parenthood in California comes through preventative services through the Family Pact program. Many young people know this as the Green Card. It's a teal-green Office of Family Planning program that covers birth control, STD testing. It's far better than any health insurance that I've ever had. You can walk out with a year's worth of birth control. You can get a free IUD that will last you for 12 years. You can get STD tests once a month if that's what you need.
Is it income tested or anybody can get it?
It is self-reported income tested. You fill out one sheet of paper, and the state of California says that's good enough for me once a year.
What if I'm 16 and I'm
There are no there are not there's a limit in age, and basically you have to be able to reproduce. So you can use the program if you are having a period.
That's fair.
And for women, and then there are it also covers men. So it covers all these services for men, like STD testing, and reproductive infection symptoms.
What about vasectomies?
It covers vasectomies.
Wow.
It's an amazing program, and that money, those are the Title 10 funds that are what they're talking about in cutting for Planned Parenthood.
That Congress is talking about.
That Congress talks about, because $9 of every 10 is Title 10 federal money that comes into California. That payoff to California and to the U.S. Pays back thousandfold in unintended pregnancies and prevents more abortions than you could even imagine.
Right.
Because when you make access to free, legal, and safe birth control, you prevent unintended pregnancy.
That's pretty obvious, but they don't get it. Oh my goodness. What also interests me is that of women who are against choice, but it seems like the defenders who oppose the health care bill were Republican women. So it helps to have a woman in government who gets the issue. So my question is, do you see that Congress is influenced by gender in terms of these kind of anti-choice measures?
I definitely see it. Especially in regards to abortion services, these are things that polite society doesn't talk about. We don't know that our best friends have had abortions,
Right.
let alone publicly people coming out and say, hey, I had an abortion. There was a few years back a Republican congresswoman in Nevada that came out and spoke openly of her abortion as a teen. And it was so controversial because you've heard one or two other discussions about it, but it's always there was some sort of fetal abnormality, or this was a conversation that was like, I just wasn't ready. And because of this, it allowed me to get out of poverty and go to college and do all of these things that I would have not been able to do. But you can't. People don't want to talk openly about it. So the more people that share and destigmatize what I think it's 4 in 10 women, I'm sorry, I don't have the exact statistics, will have had an abortion. It's 3 or 4 in 10, I believe, in their lifetime. So, I mean, odds are, even just in this conversation.
Right. So that means it would be helpful to have more than 19% of Congress members women. I mean, it helps to have
For
someone
more
who
than
has a
just
female.
these reasons.
Right.
Yes.
What other reasons?
I think that the push to solve things through war, through aggression, might start to shift with more representation from women. That would be education, making education a priority.
Childcare?
I think it can be stereotypical to think that women are more compassionate, and yet through our shared experiences, I think of raising children, perhaps, of having to face our own reproductive choices, of caring for aging parents, I think that there's a sense of how legislation impacts real people that is potentially more real for women legislators.
The studies I've seen globally are women legislators tend to be more practical. They talk less, do more. They work together to get things done. In India, women are mandated to be a third of the village governing councils, and then they put in wells and they clean up the water and things happen. Of course, that's not fair to generalize about any gender, but I think we're making a point that we need to have more women to have a fair representation. So what are you focusing on now? What's your next plan for WORD?
Well, one of the things we found the need for, and this was based on, earlier in the program I mentioned, the group that kind of took over, I think is it called the Gauntlet at Chico State, that really narrow section where a lot of students have to pass through. They took
Near the
that
library.
over. WORD responded to that. I don't know the name, it's something like the gender...
GSEC.
Center.
It used to be the Women's Center.
At Chico State, they responded. Some of the young people from the Chico State Democratic Group responded. It was really terrific and kind of created a safer space for students. So that was a rapid response. The same group, who is a kind of a traveling anti-choice group, were recently at Women's Health Specialists, and they called for help for clinic escorts. And so we kind of remain ready with a rapid response of volunteers to create safety for people that are being harassed by anti-choice protesters.
And do you have men who turn out as well?
Yes.
Right. You might say a word about women's health specialists. They used to be the Feminist Women's Health Center decades ago and changed their name over the years, but they've been around doing services for a long time.
Right. They have a number of clinics in Northern California, but they are also feeling the impacts of some of the funding and donations. So I know they closed one of their clinics recently in Sacramento, but they provide the same services that Planned Parenthood does, and it's a great option to have
A choice.
of services
Yeah.
in choice.
Right.
It's a very respectful community, and Planned Parenthood and women's health specialists back each other up. It's lovely.
And just real quickly, if I could mention a couple of other things. We've been participating in community events. We'll be at Pride.
What's Pride?
Pride is
The LGBTQ celebration
event that happens in the summer. There's one in Chico.
One is coming up.
Yes.
Yes,
it's
that's what's happening.
on the 19th. I should have brought details. I'm sorry about that, but check out
Saturday
Pride on Facebook.
Saturday, there's a festival in the downtown plaza. They're going to be a sidewalk parade starting at 10 a.m. It goes throughout the day, 10 to 4 in the plaza for Pride with community booths and vendors.
Mobilize will be there too. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Oh,
reasons
hey.
to go. Oh,
Thanks,
excellent.
Sandy.
Sponsored by Stonewall Chico Pride 2017.
So yes, we'll be there.
there's a
And
number of events.
Let me just take a quick thanks to our underwriter. Ask Dr. Gayle is made possible by the generous contributions of KZFR supporters and by Turner Chiropractic, providing chiropractic care for adults and children. Turner Chiropractic treats injuries related to car accidents, headaches, neck and back pain, and other conditions. Turner Chiropractic has been proudly serving the Hmong community for over 12 years, and they're located at 1324 Mangrove Avenue in Chico. Their phone number is 342-2111. Ask Dr. Gayle is also brought to you by the Naked Lounge, locally owned for over 15 years at 118 West 2nd Street in the heart of downtown Chico. The Naked Lounge supports local art, music, and features tender loving coffee, Chico chai, Pacific culture, and Tin Roof Bakery. Open from Tuesday to Saturday until 10 p.m. and Sunday and Monday until 8. The Naked Lounge also has craft beers on tap. And just so you know, in 7 minutes, Peanut Butter Jelly Time is going to be on with really fun music with Sandra. So if people want to get involved with any of these groups, if they say, yes, I believe in choice, how can they get involved with WORD?
WORD has a Facebook, pretty active Facebook page. But it's a secret group, so you can request to join. You can look it up. WORD, it's WORD Chico.
Actually, what you type in Facebook is WORD, all caps, WORD, Women on Reproductive Defense, and then it will pop up for you.
And then request to join. And then we also have an email address. It's
Chico Word Group, all lowercase, Chico Word Group at gmail.com.
Great. Do you have anything coming up besides Pride or any other activities you're focusing on?
We're meeting now to plan our fall actions. I suspect that we will circle back to the misleading work that Sandra has already mentioned.
Right.
We also, we have a flyer that we'll be passing out to returning students, highlighting the difference between clinics that serve women, women's
good.
health specialists, and Planned Parenthood versus, clinics that do not.
Can I ask?
So-called clinics.
I'm just curious, do you know how you're going to get them to students? Just flyers on like a flyer, an informative flyer on billboards around campus, or?
We're handing them out at Pride, and there's a few guerrilla actions that might be happening in bathroom stalls.
That's a good one.
And handing
Everybody
them out on
goes there.
campus. We're also looking at advertising in the Orion.
Okay.
So.
Good. Something that's bothers me so much that I need your three brilliant minds help with is why does 45 still get 40% approval rating? Anybody have?
Can I answer? Try to answer that question. Okay,
please.
but it's not. I don't think it's going to help.
Okay.
Okay. I feel like when we ask that question, we have to kind of either stop asking the question or think of it differently, because at this point, I had this in my head so well written out before I came here. At this point, it's pretty clear, like all signs are, that we are, it's going to become a totalitarian regime, a fascist regime. All signs are pointing in that direction with the propaganda, TV Trump, everything that's starting to happen.
Enemies, the
everything,
bad guys,
yeah, everything.
North Korea.
It's right in front of us. And so it's like when we say, why do so many people still support him? I don't know. There's pundits and there's experts and people steeped in political science, and there's so many people who are answering that question all over the place. And so I don't know if working to answer that question is going to get us anywhere to solve what's in front of us, which is so grave. I mean, it's so serious, and we can say why, but I mean, it comes down to everything that people who are listening to your show probably read every day, because people, of sound mind get their sources of information from more than one place.
Like Fox News. Right,
exactly. So, I mean, it's like, okay, we can ask that question and bang our heads into the wall, but we need to be talking about, okay, what are we going to do here?
That's the key.
Do you know what I mean?
That's the key.
Because yeah.
If I was going to answer my own question,
Yeah.
I'd probably say that he offered them better jobs.
I just feel like people picked their teams already, and they're gonna try to win regardless. There's not a lot of thought in listening to the other side. It's
Doesn't
my
matter
side.
anymore.
My side is gonna win.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I wonder if that frame of mind is what kind of has propelled the right and the alt-right little buddies for the last when did I'm basically saying when did Fox News begin, or somewhere around there. I don't know. I'm not an expert on any of this, but it's just I think a lot of us might have just underestimated what they were planning or how effective they would be. It's just such a relief to have everything explained away by simple things,
But I don't understand why a majority of white women voted for him after his clearly egregious comments about women. That I don't understand it.
I don't either.
Well, it seems to me the key is the 2018 elections. That's where we need to focus, is getting members of Congress who are not supportive of these rollback. Oh, and he said wants to roll back Title IX, affirmative action and equality in education and everything that we've fought for. I wonder if he just has like this little plan, I'm going to do everything the opposite of what Obama did, and then I'll have power over Obama or something. It's like some weird sick game or something, because I don't think he believes in anything in particular. It doesn't come out of an ideological basis. It's some kind of power play.
I don't have any answers for you, but I think for me the antidote is just looking at what needs to be done in our community, protecting reproductive rights. Anybody that went to the town hall earlier this week with Mr. LaMalfa knows that there is a seat that's ripe for replacing. He does not intend to listen to his constituents. So
No, he
I think we
doesn't.
have a lot of work to do right here in Chico, in Butte County, in the 1st Congressional District.
That would be fabulous. Did he make any statements about reproductive choice or health? He probably said that he doesn't think government should support health insurance. Did he comment on it?
I know there was a young woman that from Butte College that spoke about Planned Parenthood and the services. I don't know what his response was, but he's been.
He said, "No, I
struggling.
represent you," and then he also quoted Rand Paul in saying, which was just a terrific idea.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, I suppose he thought it was, and then he said he quoted Rand Paul and said something about. We have healthcare is not a right. He didn't say that, but he said we have the right to be responsible for ourselves and our families, but we don't have to take care of our neighbors. And I'm like, who raised you? Like, what the hell? What is
Right.
that?
Kelly,
And he also said, as far as specifics, that he was open to any ideas, but not that he would join any kind of coalition to talk about, making minute changes to the ACA.
So Ellen, Sandra, Anna, thank you so much for an interesting conversation. I hope listeners get involved.